Let us begin at the beginning, continued Owen. Money is the cause of poverty because it is the device by which those who are too lazy to work are enabled to rob the workers of the fruits of their labours. I'll show you how the great money trick is worked. These pieces of bread represent the raw materials which exist naturally in and on the earth for the use of mankind. They were not made by any human, but were created by the Great Spirit for the benefit and sustenance of all. Now, I'm a capitalist, or rather, I represent the landlord and the capitalist class. That is to say, all these raw materials belong to me. Now, you three represent the working class. You have nothing, and for my part, although I have all these raw materials, they are of no use to me. What I need is the things that can be made out of these raw materials by work. But as I am too lazy to work myself, I have invented the money trick to make you work for me. But first I must explain that I possess something else besides these raw materials. These three knives represent all the machinery of production, the factories, tools, railways and so forth, without which the necessaries of life cannot be produced in abundance. And these three coins represent my money capital. Owen proceeded to cut up one of the slices of bread into a number of little square blocks. These represent the things which are produced by labour, aided by machinery from the raw materials. Now this is the way the trick works. Owen now addressed himself to the working classes as represented by Philpot, Harlow and Easton. You say that you're all in need of employment, and as I am the kind-hearted capitalist class, I'm going to invest all my money in various industries, so as to give you plenty of work. I shall pay each of you £1 per week. You must each produce 3 of these square blocks. For doing this work, you will each receive your wages. The money will be your own to do with as you like, and the things you produce will of course be mine. You will each take one of these machines, and as soon as you have done a week's work, you shall have your money. The working classes accordingly set to work, and the capitalist class sat down and watched them. As soon as they had finished, they passed the 9 little blocks to Owen, who placed them on a piece of paper by his side, and paid the workers their wages. These blocks represent the necessaries of life. You can't live without some of these things. But as they belong to me, you will have to buy them from me. My price for these blocks is £1 each. As the working classes were in need of the necessaries of life, and as they could not eat, drink or wear the useless money, they were compelled to agree with the kind capitalist's terms. They each bought back at once and consumed 1/3 of the produce of their labour. The capitalist class also devoured 2 of the square blocks, and so the net result of the week's work was that the kind capitalist had consumed £2 worth of the things produced by the labour of the others, and reckoning the squares at their market value of £1 each, he had more than doubled his capital, for he still possessed the £3 in money, and in addition £4 worth of goods. As for the working classes, Philpot, Harlow and Easton, having each consumed the £1 worth of necessaries they had bought with their wages, they were again in precisely the same condition as when they had started work. They had nothing. This process was repeated several times. For each week's work, the producers were paid their wages. They kept on working and spending all their earnings. The kind-hearted capitalist consumed twice as much as any one of them, and his pile of wealth continually increased. In a little while, reckoning the little squares at their market value of £1 each, he was worth about £100, and the working classes were still in the same condition as when they began. "Well, and what the bloody hell are we to do now?" demanded Philpot. "Well, that's not my business," replied the kind-hearted capitalist. "I've paid you your wages, and provided you with plenty of work for a long time past. I have no more work for you to do at present. Come round again in a few months' time, and I'll see what I can do for you." "But what about the necessaries of life?" demanded Harlow. "We must have something to eat." "Of course you must," replied the capitalist affably, "and I shall be very pleased to sell you some." "But we ain't got no bloody money." "Well, you can't expect me to give you goods for nothing. You didn't work for me for nothing, you know. I paid you for your work, and you should have saved something. You should have been thrifty, like me. Look how I've got on by being thrifty." The unemployed looked blankly at each other, but the rest of the crowd only laughed, and then the 3 unemployed began to abuse the kind-hearted capitalist, demanding that he should give them some of the necessaries of life that he had piled up in his warehouses, or to be allowed to work and produce some more for their own needs, and even threatened to take some of the things by force if he did not comply with their demands. But the kind-hearted capitalist told them not to be so insolent, and spoke to them about honesty, and said that if they were not careful they would have their faces battered in for them by the police. or if necessary he would call out the military and have them shot down like dogs.